Okay, today I'm going to recharge this air conditioning system. This is a 1970 Chevy. I don't really recommend you doing it yourself. I usually don't work on air conditioning system. This is the first time I'm doing it, but this is my car. I'm going to attempt it anyway, and if it doesn't work, then I'll bring it and have somebody take a look at it and do it. But anyway, the other reason I recommend you don't do it yourself is because if you have old freon in here, it's nice for the environment to have somebody suck it out instead of just letting it go. But this system has been sitting for 25 years, so everything has sort of leaked out. There's nothing left. Oh, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook up the lines, pull vacuum, take out as much all the air and moisture out of the system. I'm also going to, at the same time, check to see that it really is secure, or check that it's really tight, so that I don't put the freon in for nothing and have it leaked out. So, okay, so this system is an R12 system, so that's what I'm going to put, R12 versus R134, I believe it is, and I think it was 1996 that they changed over. But the R12 is supposed to be a little bit more efficient. Okay, so anyway, what I want to do now is let me walk through and show you the basic system here. So in the front we have the condenser. It's right behind the radiator. Alright, the next thing is the receiver dryer. Since this was a 1970 version, we're going to throw this out and buy a new one. They're relatively cheap. I think that's $35 worth or whatever. And from there it goes, the hose goes all the way to the evaporator. But here is the connection for the high pressure line as it goes through, you see. Then here is the connector for the low pressure. You can always tell because it's on the back side of the evaporator. Okay, then the line comes across the car and it goes all the way to the compressor itself. This compressor is actually a Frigidaire, made for GM. But I think they use them on all different kind of cars, not just GM. This happens to be, says charged with R12, and this is a 3.75 pound system, so that means it needs 3.75 pounds worth of refrigerant. And they recommend you don't over or underfill these. And here's a connection to the fan belt itself, and this sort of rolls free until you hit the switch and it engages. It's electromechanical or electromagnetic, I don't really know, but anyway, it's one of those, and then it connects it. Next thing you know, it gets the compressor going and it starts pumping pressure, and the line goes back into the condenser on the front. So what we're going to do here is I have a set of gauges for the high pressure and low pressure connector. We're going to hook that up, and I'm going to connect it to a vacuum pump, and we're going to suck out all the air and moisture, and from there we're going to see if all the components are tight enough, and make sure that it can hold refrigerant once we put it in, because we don't want to put the refrigerant in and let it leak out. So I happen to have some old R12. I bought it from this guy who had a couple cases left, and that's about it. I don't know where I'm going to get any more, but we're going to load this system with R12 because it's the R12 system. Let's hook up the lines and then we'll pull some vacuum. So I happen to have a real old set of gauges, and we can tell how old they are just because of the fittings. They have screw-ons versus the new ones have like a little snap-on, and they have different types of fittings on the high and low where you connect it. But anyway, the blue is always low, the red's the high. So what I'm going to do right now, and then the yellow is for either pulling vacuum or for adding refrigerant. So first let me hook up the gauges. Blue goes to low, red goes to high. Okay, so the blue one here, okay, and it's got a rubber gasket in here. Okay, and I'm not going to super tighten these. Okay, here's the high pressure, so the red goes to high. Okay, now, okay, here's my vacuum pump. It's not mine, I borrowed it from a friend of mine. What I did is I made sure there's oil in here. So it's got to go between the high and low. You put it in here. This has two connectors. One that I want will fit on this side right here. Okay, so I have the whole thing all connected. It's all connected. Here's the gauges. I guess I could hang them up, but it is what it is. So red, blue, and here's the yellow coming down the vacuum pump. Okay, so I have the pump running. So what I want to do here is open the high and low. Okay, and you'll see that it's starting to suck down on the high and also on the low. So everything seems to be connected. There's no leaks. So what I'm going to do is just let this system run for about an hour. Maybe I'll even let it run longer, just because the system has been emptied for such a long time. And then what we'll do, we'll come back and we'll see where everything is. So let's just wait for a little while. Well, here we are again. The system has been running for about an hour and a half. I sort of forgot about it, so, but that's okay. So I'm going to shut the pump off, and I am going to close the high and I'm going to close the low. Alright, so the system is sucked down. So now what we have to do is wait and see if the system leaks out. If the pressure goes, the vacuum leaks out, and then you know there's a leak. Okay. Now that I disconnected the vacuum pump, and I have let this sit for another couple hours. But before I decided to make this movie, what I did is I ran this test overnight, and I kept it on here for 24 hours and it didn't leak. So let me show you what happens right now. If I turn this on or open this, you'll see that goes back because the vacuum goes out. And you'll see the green one too did exactly the same thing. I let all the vacuum out. So you know that the system is good. So now what I'm going to do, I'll take all this off. So I guess I could leave this connected. It won't make any difference. I'll just put it out of the way. What I'm going to do is take this off. It has two pipes on either side, and it's got some real hard bolts way down on the bottom to get it off. I'm also going to take off the compressor itself. There's a couple bolts. There's a bolt here. This one takes this pipe off. There's a bolt in the back that takes this off, and then there's a bolt over here to connect it to the bracket that goes to the manifold, the engine. And I'm going to see how much I'm going to dump the oil out of this and put fresh oil inside, because like I say, this is a 1970 system and it's been sitting for 25 years now without even, with it not working. So that's my next task here. Okay, so I disconnect 2 lines, and I disconnect the 2 brackets down in there, and here it is. Okay, now let's go after the compressor itself. Okay, so what we'll do is start with the first spool. And there's one on the bottom here that you can't see. Okay, and then there's one way in the back. This is close to the bracket, to the manifold. This was in the back. It's got a little spacer there. Alright, so I'm going to take this one off. I'm going to finish taking this one on the top off. And then I'm going to come around, take this one here, which of course you can't see because it's so oh yeah, here you can see this, unplug this, and then there's a bolt right here where the pipe comes in. I'll take this one off, and then I'm going to set the camera down. I'll come back. Okay, this is bad lighting, but anyway, let me just get this thing out of here. A little heavier than I thought. Okay, there we go. Finally, got it out.
No. See?
Yeah, okay. What we did is take this bolt off and we drained the oil that was in there. It wasn't very much, so it only was like an ounce came out, maybe a little bit more. So what we did is put 4 ounces in there. What you're supposed to do, I looked up in a old GM manual, and it said for this particular system here, it takes about 11 ounces of oil, but that's if everything is totally clean. Like I am not taking the condenser out, okay? I'm just not going to, all right? I'm not going to take the evaporator out over here because I'm just not going to. That's all there's to it. I'm not going to flush it. Like if I brought it to an air conditioning place, they probably would take it out and flush the whole system because there's probably some oil left in there and there's some oil left in the condenser. But I chose not to do that. What I did do is buy myself a new receiver dryer, and that'll go just right down in here. And I talked to somebody, they said, this air conditioning person, they said every time you open up the entire whole system, just buy a receiver dryer. This one happened to be $35. It says it's for $134, but on the box it says R12 too. So I'm going with the R12 because that's what the car originally came with, and I have R12, and that's where we are. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set the camera down, but I am going to bolt the air conditioning to these 2 bolts here. It also bolts here. It also bolts to the bracket that goes to the manifold. So now let me just, and this is, I just taped it off so no junk would get in there. And that bolts to the back of the compressor itself. Alright, so let me install the compressor. The compressor is in place, so what I did is there's a front bolt here and also one back here. But in order to get that on there, there's 2 extra bolts way here on the bottom. So what I did is loosen this, and this gave this other bracket a little bit of movement, and I was able to slip it right in between the brackets here where it belongs. One bolt here, the front bolt here, and the rear bolt here. Now the next thing, I'm just going to tip it forward, and this one up here will bolt in, and then I have the other bracket that goes from this bracket to the back of the compressor. So let me put that together and I'll show you what it looks like. Alright, now I have all the bolts on. Here's an adjustment bolt. Then I have one right down here. Have the spacer put in for the bracket, and then if you look down on the bottom, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's 3 bolts here. There's a bracket here, there's 3 bolts. So what that does now, it gives me the ability to tighten it all up. So what I also did was make sure that the fan belt is right. See, it goes down on the far pulley. It also goes on the other side of the power steering. So it hooks up, and then it comes up over the top. So here it is. You can see it's directly all lined up all the way down there. It's also on the power steering one. So what happens now is I have the ability to pull this back so that I can adjust it. So with the belt on and these bolts pretty much in place, tighten the back one up. Okay, now the airplane's gone. I tighten this one up, tighten this one up, one in the back. Seem to have good belt tension. Alright, so what I'm going to do is come back and go through and tighten all, well, 3 down here, 2, 1 in the back bracket, these 2, and we'll come back. Alright, the compressor is where it's supposed to be. Got it all tightened up. So the next thing is I just put this tape on here, so when I had it off, it wouldn't get dirty, if I can even get it off. Okay, so it's got 2 little slots here, or whatever you call this. So on the back of the air conditioner is a place where both of these go, and I put new O-rings in there. Alright, so the front part, there's a little washer that goes on here, it goes to the electrical connector, plugs in right there. So let's get the 1/2 inch first. So the whole thing here, you can see here's a bracket, 1/2 inch bolt, and then here's the electrical connector, here's the fan belt going straight on down on a pulley, here's the back where the hoses go, there's the bolt that holds it on. These 2 things, well, they're right here, they both have little flanges on it, and they go right into the compressor itself. Alright, now the next thing we want to do is put in the receiver dryer. That goes right down in here. So what we'll do is, and then it's got condenser and evaporator. So there's the evaporator going over there. Here's the condenser right over here. So let me put that in. It came silver. I just painted it black, and I put some tape over here so it always show this receiver dryer. Alright, so we got our receiver dryer in. You know, we got a little cap here and look down in there, but we'll save that for later on. So we have our lines hooked up. The red one is the high pressure line, goes to the bottom, and the top one, which is the low pressure, goes to the low pressure gauge. I have both of these on off. Alright, we have the air conditioned compressor all set. It's all hooked up. The whole system is ready to go. So what we're going to do now is, just like we did before, we're going to pull vacuum and let it run for about, I don't know, 2-3 hours. And then what I will do is come back and shut it off and see if it holds vacuum the entire night. And if it holds vacuum the entire night, then I'll put the freon in tomorrow. So let's just rev this baby up. Okay, there it goes. So we'll just see if it's how much it sucks it on down. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot. Okay. Boy, I'm not 100% refrigeration guy here. But you can see this needle went way down. Right here, the high pressure side. And the same thing with the low pressure. We're at, a little over 20. So we're just going to let that sit, and the whole system can just suck down. Okay, now here we are. This is what we've been waiting for. We're going to charge the system. All right, now remember, I put a new receiver dryer. That's this guy down here. Now the compressor is a Frigidaire, and it takes 4.7 pounds of refrigerant. So if you multiply that times 16, that's 60 ounces. So what I have is, on my workbench here, I have a 12, 14, 14, 14, and 12. So what I need is 3 14s. So I'll take this guy, and I need a 12, and this extra 12, I only need 6 ounces of that. So I'm going to have to be careful when I do that, okay? But what I'm also going to do is make sure I put one can is going to be leak finder, okay? So what we're going to do now is, this is an old can. This is, oh no, who knows, from 20 years ago or whatever, because it's $1.93. Forget that, you never see that again. But, and you'll see the old can has a hole in the top right here, and that'll be the same thing with all the rest of these. It's going to puncture a hole using this instrument here, and see, it's got a little piece of rubber for a gasket, and this is a little clamp. We just put this clamp on. So what we got to do is connect this before we open the seal. So we go back over here to the gauges, and you'll see that they both are still under vacuum. The high pressure is pegged on a pin, and the low pressure is, I don't know, 20, 28 or something like that. So now what we're going to do is, instead of having a vacuum pump here, we're going to have the refrigerant itself. So what we're going to do is close is pinned down, and what that will do is puncture the top of the can. Once that's done, you know we're ready to go for action. So I unscrew it, and that will release the freon inside the system. But we're not quite ready. All right, now. And the other thing is I'm going to start the car. And notice what I did is when I put the air conditioner on, the electromagnetic or electromechanical, whatever device that is that gets this pump going, connects. Now I'm gonna turn it on and turn it back off again, so you see that. With the AC off, this just free spins. With the AC on, it connects. The next thing I want to do is I have the freon connector coming in here, and this is the low side. So I'm going to open the low side. As you're going to see, all of a sudden that took right off. Now that the compressor is working, the freon is flowing in, then we'll just shake this a little bit. So we need to get this in there. Remember, this is 14 ounces. We need 3.75 pounds. So we need 60-some ounces. On the newer systems, the cars take a lot less. But on these old cars, they just take a lot more freon. Now that this can is empty, what we have to do is shut off the low pressure so the fluid does not come back this way, because I'm going to open this up. And there it goes. Okay, now here's how you use this tool. You put this over the top of the can. Then you take this other one and put it underneath, and that seals it. And then you turn then you hook this on to the tube that goes into the gauges, and then as you turn this on, it will break the seal. Okay, so what we did is, remember, we push this over, move this clip over, and here's our second can. So we got this tight. Now we screw this all the way down so that punctures a hole in the can. So now we open this again. Okay, it's ready to go. So now we take the low pressure side and open a low pressure. And you'll see the needle going nuts as the freon goes into the system. Well, you can also, if you look right down through here, this is the receiver dryer. You'll see the freon going through the system, from the condenser going over to the evaporator. So as the system gets more freon, it sucks it out even faster. Okay, it looks like this can is empty too, so once again, so we don't let all the stuff, the freon out of the system, we have to close this one, which is the low pressure. And then we can disconnect the line, and then we'll load another can. Alright, now, we're going to do the same thing. This is the third can, so this one's 12 ounce. Well, remember, we put 14, 14, and 12. Now the deal with this one is, this is leak finder. So I'm going to put a leak finder one in here just in case it does leak. I already have leak detection in there. Alright, so I will push down on the top wheel, screw down the top wheel so it punctures the can. All the way down, the can is punctured. Now I'm going to open it up, and that freon is coming into the hose. And now, once again, I'm going to open low pressure. So, the freon is coming right out of this can, and the gauge reading is pretty high here, 50, 60. Once again, I don't know what that means because I'm not an air conditioning guy. And then the high pressure is between 100, well, it's at 125. But we'll see what that is later on. So you can see the pipe here is getting a little cold. So what happens with the leak detector, you put this stuff in there and you can look at all the hoses and all the connections. You have to wear special glasses, and I think you use ultraviolet light, and it'll be purple. Like if it was leaking here, you'd see all purple coming out. So that's the beauty of putting this leak detector stuff in. Took the hose off. You can see this has the red dye in here. I guess it's going to be red dye. Okay, you'll see my jury rig system here. Kind of sad, but anyway, this is my beer thermometer, and I just put it in front of one of the vents. I don't know if you can see that, probably not. It says 72 right now. So it is sort of working. Okay, here's another can of Freon, number 12. This is a 14-ounce can. Okay, here it is. The can's empty. We're going to shut off the low pressure. Okay, and then we're done. Alright, so we're going to just take a look at the gauges. This one reads 55, and this one is almost 175. You can see that. We'll go inside the car and look at our beer thermometer, and it's saying 60, well, it's almost about 68 degrees. So it's blowing 68 degrees temperature. So at that, we can shut the car off and disconnect our hoses here. And I'll put one of these caps on. And here's a cap for the high. Okay, so we got all the gauges off. So that sort of completes our system. Okay, so now we loaded the system up with Freon R12. The pipes here are a little cold, so the system works really fine. We put the caps back on the high and low ports where you put the fluid in, but you have to remember, once again, I mean, it seems to work right now for me. I don't think it's going to leak because it didn't leak before. I had it on vacuum for probably all night. It didn't drop vacuum. Okay, so you have to remember that I am really not an air conditioning guy, and I just did this because this is my own car, and that's it. But for you, this is a way you can do it if you want to, but once again, that's it. I got cold air out of it. It seems to work, so that's it. Thank you for watching.